Alright, gang, what's up? I'm gonna begin this video by saying it might be this might be parental advisory, explicit content. I might be cussing a lot, so if you're in a position where you're listening to my video and you can't have a bunch of cuss words being said, go ahead and tell you're gonna want to turn this one off. Put your headphones in or whatever you gotta do. But alright, there's your warning. So I'm gonna be more myself this video. I say that in the sense of as I started making videos, it's like, oh, I gotta word things a certain way and don't be so vulgar, because hey, fuck all that. I'm just gonna say whatever the fuck I want right now. So through social media and everything else, and just media in general, it has become very apparent people are hating on the PFL. Like, and here's what. So the PFL, opposite organization of UFC, there were like 4 main organizations for the past couple years, and that's the UFC, the PFL, Bellator, and one championship. I believe the order of market value or worth or whatever would be UFC, Bellator, PFL, 1. PFL and 1 might kind of actually be it depends. But then like Bellator did a call out, and they did like Bellator versus 1, and 1 won everything if I remember right. Anyways, PFL last year bought Bellator, and they're working on sort of phasing out the brand, but there's a lot of complexities involved in that. But one thing unique about PFL is they treated the fighting as a season there. And that's smart to me. They're trying to differentiate from UFC. What we don't want to happen, and what a lot of people seem to fucking ignore, is you don't want MMA to turn into boxing, where you got the WBO, the WBC, the WBA, fucking whatever fucking organization you want, and you got people with 15 different belts and no one will fight each other. You don't want that. So if you're gonna have different organizations, you want to have different approaches. And for the most part, that's what was going on. Other than Bellator and UFC were about identical. I think Bellator did a big prize for some shit. They might have done a Grand Prix every once in a while. But PFL would do a season. 1 would do a bunch of different sports. So they're very unique in their own thing. The PFL would run their season, and the winner of their season would get $1 million. You would get points based off throughout the season. Like, you had to have so many fights. If you won your fight in the first round, you would get 6 points, and that was the most amount of points you could get. They're doing away with the point system. And now they're doing away with the $1 million, and they're making it $500,000. And that's what's got people talking shit online. Like, oh, this is a bad look for the PFL. Oh, the PFL promised them this. Oh, the PFL falling under. How'd they buy Bellator and go under? Well, here, I'm going to explain it all to you fucking idiots. You fucking retards. Quit talking shit when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. All right. The PFL used to give $1 million to the winner of their season. Every single fighter in the PFL was signed under a 50,000 show and a 50,000 win contract. So the $1 million was based off that. You couldn't win more than that. You couldn't get your contract. You're gonna get 50,000 a show, and then if you win, you get another 50,000. There was no changing in that. Part of why you do that is to build up the brand. And if you go back in time and you look at UFC pay, UFC fighters were getting like $3,000. $3,000 to show and like $5,000 to win. Jake Paul comes around, stirs some shit up. Now I think the minimum is $15,000. So still, PFL, $50,000 to show, $50,000 to win is a way to build fighters and build a brand. That is not the contracts anymore. Now you have a bunch of people with contracts above $50,000. They're redoing contracts. And in addition to this, when they go and buy Bellator, Don Davis went on Ariel Helwani and explained this. This is all out there for you to understand. Before I go into that, I want to speak a little bit. Someone y'all might be familiar with, Chael Sonnen, did the Bellator and did the PFL and whatever, and he didn't even have a fucking contract. People took care of him, and he had good relationships and stuff. The PFL isn't someone that's getting thrown under the bus like one championship and UFC and Dana White. Like, that doesn't happen to the PFL very often. Right now is the first we're ever getting to see that. And what happened was, when Bellator got bought out in the midnight hour, literally the night before, so you sign the contract or whatever, it's kind of like buying a house. There's going to be a date everything transitions over at like midnight. In the last fucking day, they go and re-sign a bunch of old people to lucrative contracts. And when I say old, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but you're signing people that only have about, if any, 2 fights left, if any, and they're wanting them to pay like $500,000 a fight. It was absolutely lucrative contracts. Of course, when the fighters presented it, they're going to sign it and be happy. But then they turn around and PFL can't honor it because it's absolutely ridiculous. It's not profitable. It's set up to make the PFL fail. Then the fighter's going to be mad because they had a contract and they're looking at the PFL like, you won't honor this. Does anyone have any fucking common sense to look at what happened? You should be mad at fucking Bellator. And as a fighter, you should be suing fucking Bellator to set up a fucking flaw and a fucking failure for your future career with your future employer, which they fucking knew they were doing. Okay? So, it puts PFL in a harder financial position now that there's all these other fucked up contracts. So now, it's $500,000 handed out if you win the tournament, but you're getting more than $50,000 throughout your fights. Does that make sense? That makes a lot of fucking sense to me. And as the fights come out, if anyone bitching has the fucking mental capacity to keep up with it, you will see it. It's not a fucking secret. It's not fucking hidden. It's not behind closed doors. Understand something. In the UFC, they are literally breaking the fucking law. And I don't bring it up or word it like that very often because it needs to happen. There needs to be some... The organization needs to make a shift in legislation to fix it. But the organization benefits from it being illegal. So, what I'm going to speak about on that, think about, I feel like it was just a month or two ago, Daniel Cormier came out and shared that after his John Jones fight, I don't remember which one, I think it was the first one, Dana called him up the next day and was like, hey, you guys killed it. I'm sending you a check. The day after that, he gets $1 million check. That wasn't his purse. That was not his show money. That was not his win money. That has happened a ton of times. So that just avoided all the fucking taxes. You know what I'm saying? I could be wrong about that, but I think that is the reason why it's done like that. Dana was a fighter himself, so he wants to take care of the fighters. He understands it. But it hasn't been financially able for a long time until like maybe in the last 5 or 10 years, and they're trying to sort it out. I'll give them credit for that. But it isn't until after Dana can see the results, he can see what he can give someone. And then he just gives it to him out of his own check or whatever, and it's like a gift. So you avoid income tax. The fighter avoids paying taxes, all that, whatever. And I could be completely wrong on those details. This happens so much more than anyone realizes, and there are plenty of examples of people coming out and saying, Dana takes care of me. Dana will come out a lot of times and say, hey, I'm going to take care of him. But he won't say what he's doing. He won't say how much he's giving. And he talks about all the time how fighters don't tell the public. I'm telling you, they're protecting taxes and legality of themselves by doing that. Recently, I believe it was on the Jackson podcast. It was Rampage, that one guy, and God, which one was it? Because I've watched a couple recently. It was Bisping. It was Michael Bisping. Luke was there. Yeah, Luke Rockhold was there. Yeah, okay. They get to talking about those checks, and Luke and Mike are like, yeah, we both got them. And they're like, mine wasn't $1 million, but we got them, and they were bigger than the purse or something like that. Rampage got it once, and Rampage tells his story, and he's like, I got it once, I never got it again. And he realized, from Rampage's perspective, he went out and he had just come from Pride or whatever in Japan, and he got this bonus that he didn't expect, so he goes and tells the public about it. He thought he was doing Dana White and the UFC a favor by upping him. Rampage never got the bonus again. And then Rampage, like after so many fights, he was like, hey man, I hear all these other people getting bonuses and you gave me a bonus and now I don't get a bonus. And he's like, is it because I talked about it? And he said, Dana went, bingo. And that was the only bonus Dana ever gave Rampage. Rampage never got it again. And it's because he vocalized it. He was even doing it in an attempt to help Dana. But when you start naming the numbers and everything, there's legality and taxes and shit behind that. Anyways, I say all this to say, quit fucking bitching about the PFL. Look into what everyone is doing and you're going to see who's doing what right. Don Davis has been a good person and putting faith in the sport. He let Francis go box UFC doesn't let people do that. You get what I'm saying? Like, Don Davis seems to be an outstanding fucking promoter, and he's trying to build everything, but he's working with less talent. Give it some time. I still got a lot of faith in the PFL. I really, really do. But, yeah, that's my 10 minutes. Y'all have a good one.